Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Welcome to True Crime and Wine Time Live with me, JT and Terry. That sounded like one person. Well, we are.
I was like, say, aren't we kind of the same person?
We are indeed. We are indeed. Before we
It's
get
been
into
a while.
everything, it has been a while. A lot has been happening. Hello, hi. We see you. I want to say that I'm thinking and sending good vibes to everybody in the Midwest, in Central America, Central North America. You know that area. There's a lot of tornado warnings, big storms, things like that. So if you are in that area, please be safe.
Please.
You know, and if you're huddling in the center of your house and still streaming this, God bless you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for being dedicated, but you do not have to take the live stream to the closet. You know, being a Texas girl, I've spent many of days working in the closet, but yeah, we're not that important. You can always come back and watch it later.
For real. I've spent enough time in it, so you know, it's not that interesting.
Well, I need to throw out a general warning.
Okay.
Terry's a little feisty today. I've had the littles for 6 days. They're now gone. I'm even wearing my shirt that says underestimate me. That will be fun. So just warning everybody now that I'm a little feisty. And I apologize now for offending anyone.
I don't think I think the community that we're slowly garnishing, that's weird, building. I think they're kind of along the lines of what we're how we are.
I mean,
well,
I've garnished my margarita.
Yes. So speaking of that, that's a nice segue, huh? What are you drinking?
I am drinking a watermelon mango spicy margarita with tahini and cayenne pepper on the top. I made me enough for 3 glasses with extra tequila.
Ooh. So wait, so that minimal amount has extra tequila, huh?
Well, considering I've already filled up a glass and drank that much, yes. So the recipe called for 3 shots of tequila for this amount.
Correct.
I added 6.
Okay. It's going to be a fun show. We might make it to the end. But we're doing some important stuff first. Don't worry. The important stuff's first.
That's right. We are doing the important stuff.
It's been a couple of weeks. What have you been up to?
So, and I've put this out on social. I don't know if it's been on the podcast social. 2024 hasn't really been starting off as my year. Handsome hubby has had a couple of medical procedures. Of course, we all know that I make kidney stones, like most people make bad jokes. And vertigo has been my nightmare. I am taking anywhere from 7 to 10 Benadryls, 2 to 3 antihistamines, or taking that many Dramamines to try to function. But the great news is I have had no vertigo in 3 days. Knock on wood.
Hey, there's a win.
So there's a win. So my outlook is looking better. I struggle when we go through this hot, cold. Looks like we're just going to stay warm now. And we're not going to have any more cold. So I should be good.
Yes. 2024 has been interesting. Usually even years are good years for me, but it's been something. It's between cars getting stolen and noses being broken and
yeah. But here's my philosophy. We're getting it all out of the way in Q1. The rest of the year is going to be amazing for us. Because I'm a firm believer, if your first quarter's rough, the rest of the year is going to be amazing. I mean, unfortunately, I've had the 3rd death of this year. within my circle. So that means I'm also done with deaths for the year. So anyone that knows me, you're safe for the rest of the year because I've had my 3
That's
and they come in 3s.
good to know. Oh, well, I don't know. Brett says the rest of the year is about to be wild. So
Yeah,
hopefully
let's
like a
hope
good
not.
wild.
As I say, I hope it's a good wild and one that we want to write home about.
Yeah,
I,
for
I love that.
sure.
I totally waved back. We all do. So,
We
how
do
are
it
the
all the
kiddos?
time. All
How are your
the kiddos
kiddos?
are good. Before I hop into that, I'm drinking just Winking Owl California Moscato. You know, the bottom of the shelf, but Winking Owl's decent.
Moscato.
It's
Isn't
definitely
that like a really,
yeah,
that's a sweet wine.
yeah. I know. I don't usually drink it, but it's all I had. I do have over here, if I get tired of it, I do have a small bottle of sake. So sake it to
Oh,
me. I had bought that for another thing. So yeah,
I'm licking
the littles are
tahine
good.
off my hand.
The littles are good. We just got back from a trip to Great Wolf Lodge, which is insane. The water park was awesome. The Magic Quest was cool. We probably walked a good 17, 18 miles in 3 days in that hotel, most of it for the Magic Quest. Um,
Nice.
yep. And yeah, so it was good. It was good, despite the fact that Mrs. Brew's crime had a broken nose.
Um,
I'm laughing because it's gonna be okay.
well, and I'm going to say we just need to put this out there. You did not break Mrs. Brew Crime's nose.
No,
So before anyone throws that
no,
rumor
and
out, because I
yeah,
want to say, I had to miss the last recording because I was having a vertigo moment. Next thing I know, I'm getting messages from people asking me about being attacked.
yeah. What is going
And
on?
I know, I was like, I even went back and rewatched what you said about me. Nowhere on there did it say I was attacked. Nobody did anything to me. So I am going on the record and saying JT did not hurt Mrs. Brew Crime before somebody takes
No,
off and runs with it.
my GPS will confirm that I was at a soccer game mascotting when I came back to take a break and had 5 missed calls. And Mrs. Brew's Crime knows that I don't have my phone on me when I'm doing that, so I immediately called back. Turns out she was leaning down for the small dog to leash him up. The big dog lifted his head, connected pity mix with a big blockhead, connected with her nose, broke it in 2 spots, and but she had her ENT appointment Monday. She had it broken and rebroken and reset or set on Tuesday. It's a little more painful today than it was Wednesday, but she's a trooper and she makes it
Yeah,
look good. I don't know how she does that, but she does. So
because she's good. I mean,
yeah,
dogs do that. I mean, Bear broke Double H's foot just by stepping on it, and he broke his foot. So it happens. I just needed to say
yeah.
that because I didn't want to wake up tomorrow to messages, people asking me, what did JT do to Mrs. Brew Crime? Because people hear what they freaking want to hear.
All the time, and they will run with it all the time
I
in
mean,
public
you're a
venues
man.
all the time.
You know what that's like. You do it all the time, right?
Well, that's yeah, right. It's really funny because we had gone to one urgent care, then we ended up being sent to the ED just in case we needed a CT scan. Didn't need that, which is great. However, we were waiting to be called back in the emergency department, and my mother-in-law, who's wonderful, she was like, "Man, the same thing happened to me back in like '85, and they took me back, and they refused to let my father-in-law back there because they called somebody to talk to me first to make sure it wasn't him." And I was like, this is a great story for me to now be called to go back to and feel very uncomfortable. And this is why I map everywhere I go. It's just like I'm sitting there feeling nervous for no reason whatsoever. And everything I do, I'm just like second guessing myself. Like, should I turn towards the doctor? Do I look at him? Is it intimidating? What do I do? I don't know. It's a weird situation, despite knowing that
I
I
mean,
was literally sweating my butt off at the same time.
I
So,
appreciate though that they do that because as someone who was in a marriage that had physical violence, that is greatly appreciated, that they don't just automatically assume that the person needs to come back. But on the flip side, it's also scary as shit when you're innocent, because I hear so many stories of CPS and domestic violence things that they run rampant and there was nothing there. So it's kind of one of those necessary double-edged swords.
I am perfectly fine with them being over careful and asking those questions. Like I would not have been offended. I would rather them do that regularly than totally ignore actual allegations, if that makes sense. Like ask for info, don't ask to
Right.
find reason, but I'm fine
Right.
with that. I would rather that happen. Oh, yep. Kids are notorious for this. Laying down, leaned over him, he raised his head, black eye, boom. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids and dogs.
I mean,
every time. Kids and dogs.
just one of our littles. I left the house yesterday to go to a meeting. I was gone for 2 hours, left the littles here with Double H, came back. One of the littles got a big old raspberry on his head and his knees all scraped up because he was running with his dump truck outside on the concrete and he tripped over his feet. And I'm like, it happens. It's life, right?
It really does.
I mean, I fall walking across a room.
Oh no. I mean, I knew that, I think, but oh no, anyways.
I mean, when I'm having a flare up and the legs give out, the nerves, I mean, hey, Double H walks in often and finds me either on the floor or crawling like a dog.
No.
But I look good doing it. That's all that matters.
We need to get you a hover round.
What's that?
It's like
is that one of those
tiny
boards?
motorized scooters that fits everywhere. No, it's like a tiny motorized scooter that fits everywhere. It can make like 90-degree turns and stuff. You can get it around.
Yeah,
I would do that just for funsies.
I'd probably run into the wall and break something. I mean,
at least it wouldn't be yourself, though, right? I don't know.
Let's consider the source, right?
Right.
But bubble wrap. Oh, I had a girlfriend. Okay. I have a family member who popped on. And I even took those said kids they're part of my bone hunting crew, and we went and found a bunch of cow bones. So I have really great nieces and nephews. I have to say, I'm a little nervous about our chase update tonight. We've got a lot of good stuff, so I won't give anything away, but I'm going to just say everybody really pay attention because there's a lot of crap going on, as you know. And we're going to share what we can, and we can't share some stuff, but we're going to share what we can.
I think that's a good segue, and I'm going to hit this intro. All right.
So before I get started, the first thing I want to say is thank you for everyone that has called in tips or sent in tips. We've gotten, I think I've said before, some crazy tips, and we've gotten some amazing tips. We have gotten tips that has given us a lot of things, as you know, to research, and we're getting a lot more pieces of the puzzle. Okay. And we have been able to connect the dots and have been able to link several of the persons of interest to multiple states and to each other. And of course, to Chase, that's the whole reason we're doing it. So what I need to say though, is there are some things that we can't share for legal reasons.
Right.
We are not law enforcement. We are doing this because we care, and we just have to be careful. We don't want to do anything to hurt anyone or ourselves. Now,
correct.
We are able to confirm that there are multiple law enforcement agencies, one being the FBI, who are looking into Chase's disappearance, his connections to the multiple persons of interest, as well as the activities of those individuals.
Yeah.
And we have been able to connect the multiple suspects and persons of interest to multiple states. They are not just here in Texas. And they are not just connected to California. They are connected to multiple states. I will say 98% of it ties back to Texas, but still connections to other states. Now, we also have documentation and proof that one of the primary persons of interest did ask law enforcement, hypothetically, for their safety, what could they do for them if they gave the information regarding to what happened to Chase?
What?
Which I'm sure I'll agree with me as very suspicious. Unfortunately, the person lawyered up because he did not like the response he was given. Because they're not going to tell you they're going to protect you and put you into witness protection until they know what you got. I mean, you don't get to be king for a day if we don't know what you got. And didn't like
I'm
that.
Not gonna,
so lawyered
I'm not gonna
up.
Nominate you president if I don't know about you.
Well, in this country, you never know. But so we also have documented proof. One of these persons of interest, suspects, whatever you want to call them, called his girlfriend, wife, we're not sure of what the relationship was at that time, gave her a list of people to call, told them to tell them to get attorneys because they, being the police, are trying to get him for Chase's murder.
So wait.
Okay, guys.
It's not funny, but he's saying that the police are trying to get him, so they need to get attorneys because he's going to talk, or what is the like? That's the inference that I'm in.
And for Chase's murder, Chase is listed as a missing person. There is no evidence that we've seen that the family has seen to say 100% Chase was killed. Now, we're all adults. We're all intelligent people. I'm going to assume we're all intelligent people. I like to think I'm intelligent some days. That you don't talk about somebody in a past tense or say they're trying to get you for a murder when you're being talked to about a disappearance unless you know something. I mean, why would you jump to saying they're trying to get me for his murder? They weren't talking to you about a murder. The questions that you were being asked were about his disappearance. How did he go from disappearance to murder? Quick, which is very, very interesting. Now, we also have some preliminary data, so I'm not going to share a lot of the details, but our investigators, we're really working on this hard. But I can say so far it looks like all of these persons of interest, suspects, all link to Addison and Matt. We have found a connection to all of them. So, and I've said this before, I'm not saying they did it. I'm saying they know something. We've said that. They know something. We all know they know something. What I'm going to say is we are still researching. We are still gathering information. Some of it, like I said, we can't share. I will tell you, we have submitted some of the tips that we were able to verify to the Harris County tip line for them to look into. Now, Harris County, I can't say they're going to do shit with it. I don't know. But we have done the ethical thing and given it to them. anonymously.
Yeah.
Now, I just said on here that I gave it to them, but we will not. One or two of the tips, we know who gave them to us. Most of them are anonymous. We will not give that information. We are able to say that we have the freedom of speech and we are considered media. So we do have that protection and we don't have to say our source. Now, I'll go on a limb. I do not look good in orange. I will not do well in jail. But the couple of people who've come forward and given us their names, I'm willing to go to jail and not tell your name. And that's why we give them Jane Doe or John Doe names. And then we delete their name so that I can't remember who said what. Because we're not going to share that information. And what I want to say is keep calling in people. We even had somebody who called in and they changed their voice. I will say it was a little creepy voice. It sounded like a little squeaky kid and I found it a little eerie. But hey, do what you got to do. Call it in. Any small tip, because all of these pieces, and now that we have some new investigators working on it, they are seeing things. Aw, pink is me. But they're seeing things that we didn't see and that other people. And so every little tip, like there was one tip that connected like 6 things and we were like, holy crapola. So call in the tips, even if you think it is, minuscule, whatever. Yeah. I don't even know if that's a word. Minuscule? Is that a word?
Minuscule?
Minuscule? Yeah, that's a word. So
it is.
Once again, I want to thank everyone for calling in their anonymous tip. All of the tips are appreciated. And I want to just say to the people who think this is going to stay hidden, people are starting to talk and things are starting to move pretty fast. We have so many things that we are working on investigating that I would say do the right thing before somebody comes and knocks on your door. Because if you didn't do it and you just know, you can still be an accessory after the fact. So do the right effing thing and tell. Because I am not going to find any joy. Okay, I might find a little bit of joy watching them be handcuffed because they didn't come forward.
Yeah. Do something before you hear that knock. You're like, this is the time to work ahead. You might not have in the past. This is the time to work ahead. Be a good student and go say something.
The people that you think aren't talking, guess what? As you know, JT, some of the people who've talked, I'm still shocked. And the proof and the documentation that they're sending is shocking. And I will tell you, people talk. We think these people are keeping secrets. They're not. And they think that they've scared people into not talking. And guess what? Because we're letting people do it anonymously, they're doing it for the right reason. They're not even doing it for the reward. Because if you remember, we've got almost $16,000 in reward money. They're calling it anonymously, so they won't get the reward. So they're doing it because it's the right thing, which tells you your days are numbered. Somebody's going to give us that one extra piece that we need that's going to just bring all of this together. Now, with that being said, we have had some tips come in about this Chase's disappearance and the suspects. There's another missing person that there's been some talk potentially is connected. We have found the 2 people did know each other, and I'm not going to say his name because I have not spoken with his family.
Sure.
They did know each other. Chase and him did know each other. We have confirmed that this person was involved with a pot farm in a different state that's connected to the one that Chase was working in California. Doesn't mean what happened to them is connected, but there are some early signs that it's the same group of people. So we're still looking into that, and we are going to continue looking into that. So keep calling in the tips, because I tell you, it makes my day when I have to silence my phone at night because the calls were coming in at 2, 3 in the morning and I was getting woke up. I need y'all to leave a voicemail because I'm sleeping. But I tell you, I wake up and I see tip line call. I get so excited because I'm like, oh shit, this could be the one. This could be the one that helps us bring Chase back to his family. Because at the end of the day, yes, I want the people punished who did it. I'm sure the family does too. I don't know. Haven't asked them. What I will tell you, the biggest thing is we want to know where he is. Bring him home if he's alive, or bring his remains home and give him the peace he deserves. Then we'll worry about justice. Right now, you need to be worried. People are talking. So keep on calling me, people.
I'm just saying, like, the assumption that somebody is going to be quiet simply because you leaned over them.
Well,
Not
I
a
was
good one.
talking to
Makes an ass out of you.
I was talking to somebody today who made the comment, well, you know, if they told a female, you know that it's not going to be kept a secret. Oh,
I'm going to make an addition. Oh, all right. How did that happen?
I have no idea what that was.
It was your sign or something, wasn't it?
It's still...
Okay, wait, is your
popped.
sign suspended?
Yeah, it's suspended.
Oh, what was that behind it that just fell?
Oh, I forgot. I had put 2 balloons back there because they were floating around the office, and I put them behind it so that they wouldn't float up.
Yo, we were about to change the entire theme of this show. Like,
okay, these have
History
been
Channel is
behind
about
it.
to come on because they ain't do history.
This has been behind it for 2 weeks. So that's funny that it just decided to pop. I was making a balloon arch and stuck them there. So I'll just let it float. Okay, do you know what that just reminded me of, JT? Do you remember our very first time recording together?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
I think so.
Cheerleader mom from Channelview, Texas.
Yes.
And it was back when I had first started the podcast, and I had my podcast booth set up in my closet in my office. And we were talking about my mom, Mama Bear, and one of her funeral memory cards came out of a box that was closed, and we were on video, and it fluttered down and landed on my keyboard while we were recording. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I rethought my entire outlook on life that night.
I mean, it's changed the way I think of things about life. And when I think of Mama Bear, I'm careful what I say because she's obviously listening. And she gonna come back and get me if I don't watch it.
Always just a...
Okay, well, that was interesting, but all of that to say, don't put balloons behind your sign, and call us because we love the tips.
Yes. She gonna cloud up and rain on
Hey,
you.
I tell my littles that all the time. So that's what we got. So one last thing I'm going to say, if you're friends, if there's somebody on here that's friends or knows Addison or Matt, tell them they are able to call anonymously just like anybody else.
Yep. Shelby's asking for just a quick recap.
Oh, sure. Quick recap. Chase Allen Lackey went missing from Houston, Texas in July of 2017. He and his dog Champ basically disappeared. There's been some theories he was out walking the dog because he was seen walking the dog earlier in the day. We know that he went with some friends during the day, played softball the night before. He sent some text messages, assuming from his apartment. Somebody took him and Champ, his ID, his truck, all of his belongings were left at his apartment. And the interesting thing about that is the family and friends went into his apartment to look for him because they were worried what happened. And they were smart and took pictures. They called the police when they went into the apartment the next day. Cell phone had been swapped out. Some money was taken. Some things were changed in the apartment. And the sad thing is Harris County never treated it as a crime scene. They never fingerprinted the apartment. They did very little, is what we're going to say. During the course of investigating, found out that two of Chase's so-called good friends weren't really good friends. They lied to police, said that neither one of them were involved with drugs. It was all Chase, yada, yada, yada. And there's proof. Chase was working in the iron business. He lost his job because he was a little daredevil little thing. And his good friend, Addison, said, hey, come work with me in my drug business. You can work on this pot farm. We can do all of this stuff together. Chase, it appears, brought Matt into it. And then they both lied, said they didn't see Chase that weekend. And lo and behold, one of them's phone pinged with Chase's that day. I mean, these two friends know what happened, and Chase is still missing. And guess what? Their friends are starting to talk, and some family. So I just gave away a little clue that I probably shouldn't have. I'm sure somebody's going to be sending me a text any minute telling me to shut my trap, but friends and family are talking. They're starting to realize that they want to be on the right side. They don't want to have that information, knowing that Chase's mom and dad go to bed every night wondering where their son is and what happened. I go to bed crying, wondering what happened to him. So,
yeah,
there's a quick recap.
And I think you mentioned that multiple levels of law enforcement are involved now, right?
Mm-hmm. Multiple agencies. Yes.
Okay.
So, in case you want to know, let me get my little post-it here. The anonymous tip line, 512-553-9484. To be anonymous, you need to hit star 67 when you do it. Now, if you don't, we will get your phone number, but once we take the message out, we can delete that number. If some people have called and they're okay telling us who they are. We still, even if you tell us who you are, we are going to remove that information so that we do not have to share it with anyone.
Yes. And I'll leave the number running on the banner for the rest of the show. I added the star 67. I didn't know that part, but there it is.
Yeah,
it's there now.
I need a drink. Sorry, guys. I'm going to just say it makes my nose itch with the spiciness.
At least you don't get the hiccups.
Maybe I've had too many. I just promise we need to get through our cases because tequila has a tendency to make my clothes fall off. So I also have water here to make sure that doesn't happen.
At least we'll prevent a couple of layers from coming off.
Also, I want to say, be a better friend to people.
Right?
Just be a better friend. I mean, I've had to walk away for some friends. Sometimes you have friends in your life. They're there for a certain part of your life. There was a reason you met them. There's a reason you connected then. Doesn't mean you have to be lifelong friends. You can walk away from people that do not contribute positive to your life. It is okay to say, you know what? I love you. I want the best for you, but you're not good for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't think you have to keep those friends.
Yeah. I mean, I know that the longer that people are in your life, the harder it is to kick them to the curb. But if they are toxic, kick them to the curb. They are not worth the stress, the drama, and the insanity that they bring to your life. There is something to be said for trying to make something work, but if that doesn't work, you don't need it. You just don't need it. Nope.
Yeah. I mean, it just is, people. So, and if you say that you're a friend and you're going to post on social media how much about this person, you need to walk the walk that you're talking. Yeah, I'm talking about Addison. You know, we've called him out before, all these posts, how I'm missing Chase. He was in my wedding, yada, yada, yada. And yet they weren't even friends on Facebook anymore. And he has all this money, all these articles about him being a millionaire. He has not offered one dime or 1 ounce of help for his so-called friend. So really, what kind of friend are you? If you supposedly are rolling on all this money, why aren't you giving money? If you truly don't know anything, why aren't you calling me and saying, hey, Terry, hey, JT, what can I do to help you find Chase? He was my bud. So
Yeah.
Don't call yourself a friend.
Right. If you do have a Facebook, what I have up right now is the account for the group that we have for Chase, which is Finding Chase Lackey. If you search that on Facebook, you will find it.
And that is run by his family. That is different than the True Crime Wine Time discussion page. Just so you know, the Finding Chase Alan Lackey page is run by his family. You will find we post and tag them in anything. We try to be good about tagging them in anything. And we do have a GoFundMe set up. We can post that link. I think we have it. And we also, on our True Crime and Wine Time website, you can buy merchandise and the profits from those items go to that as well. It's not a lot because we wanted the products to be good quality. I have several and they're really good quality, so the profit's not huge. But if you want to buy a t-shirt, a hoodie, a bag, get the word out there, you can do that, or the GoFundMe. And all of that money will be spent for rewards or with families' permission on things to get us closer to the truth.
I'm trying to find, why can't I not find the link?
I think it's on our webpage, True Crime and Wine Time. If not, what I'll do is I will add it to the comments, a picture of it, after we finish recording. Because I know we've made several posts because we even have a QR code. So, yes.
I'm having a hard time finding anything right now.
Also, not going to get religious, but if you do believe in prayers, please say a prayer for his family because they are living through hell. And I've said it multiple times. I don't know how they are functioning and going on and still, are leading lives, with not knowing. So my hugs, hearts to all of them. They are an amazing group of people and they deserve answers.
Yes. Oh, are you ready to move into the case? Cases.
I am, because we're sticking in Texas.
You are, for sure.
I am. That's right. Just
all right.
me.
Do you want me to replay the intro so we have a separation of spots. Up to you.
Yeah, we're good. I think we're good.
Perfect.
Do you have an intro for my case?
No.
No. Then we're good. Okay.
I sure don't.
So that's good because my case is dark, and I have always said I will not do mass shootings or school shootings. But this one is different because it was early on in mass shootings, and it is something that has stuck with me from the time it happened. And you will see that I am not going to focus as much on the shooting aspect. Some of it I will. I'm also not going to give the perpetrator any glory. We're going to call him by his first name only. He is deceased, but he's not getting any kudos from me or any recognition from me. So, guys, this is something that was devastating for my home state of Texas, who is still on drugs, but back then they weren't on drugs. Anyway, and so Bob Luby opened his first Luby's restaurant in San Antonio, Texas. His dream was to serve fresh food at a place that was inviting to guests. Okay. Guys, I grew up going to Luby's with my mama, and I always had fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes with cream gravy, red Jell-O with Cool Whip.
You had me until the Jell-O. However, I'd still eat it because it all sounds good.
I mean, even now when Double H makes me Jell-O, it's red with the little Cool Whip on top, because that is what I remember. We would go after church on Sundays, and then just because, and my grandmother loved their liver and onions. So I know I'm like, but so Luby's is currently only in Texas, has 38 locations. Okay. On October 16th, 1991 was also Boss's Day. And Luby's was extra busy during lunchtime because of it. When George, like I said, I'm not going to say his full name, drove his pickup truck through the front windows of Killeen's Luby's. Now, Killeen, Texas is home to Fort Hood. And currently they have over 70,000 military personnel, and Luby's was right next to Fort Hood. Do not know how many people were stationed there then. I could not find that. So it was lunchtime. He drove his truck through the front windows. George was 35 years old. He had turned 35 the day before this.
So this was his birthday present,
I guess. He was born, and I don't know how you say it, but Sayre, Pennsylvania. Sayre. Sayre. Never been there.
There, yeah, probably.
So he was born into a wealthy family and had two younger siblings. So his dad was an orthopedic surgeon and got called into the military. So then they wound up moving around a lot because he worked at different Army hospitals. He did have two younger siblings, and George went into the military after high school. He was honorably discharged after a couple years, but he went into the Merchant Marines after that, and he had a lot of problems because he was arrested for drug use, and he was suspended for having racial arguments with people. And guys, this was in 91.
Oh, good.
I mean, now he lived in Belton, Texas, which is a little small town next to Killeen, in a house that his family owned. So he wasn't paying any bills. And he worked a lot of different jobs. He actually quit his job about a week and a half before the event at Luby's. So after he drove through the window, he jumped out of the truck and he yelled, "This is what Belton did to me." Guys, nowhere could I find anything that Belton, the city, did anything to him. So, don't know what was going on with that. He then pulled out a Glock 17, a Ruger P89. Those that don't know, those are both pistols. It was not, assault weapons. Now, a local veterinarian did what anybody would do that has any type of medical training. He rushed over to the truck to help this person, thinking that it was a medical emergency, right? Guys, I would still do the same thing. But sadly, DVM Michael Griffith was shot and killed by George. Okay. Now, after this, he started shouting, again, this is what Bell County did to me. This is payback day. Okay. He then opened fire on guests and staff of Luby's. This is why it gets dark for me. He was selective as he went through the restaurant on his shooting spree. Okay. As he was going through the restaurant, he was yelling, all women of Killeen and Belton are vipers. The one humane thing he did, and I dug and dug and dug, and I could not find anyone that could explain why he did this. He went up to a woman who had a small child, and the baby was crying, and he basically yelled at her to get out before he changed his mind. And he let her and the child live. I could not find. I am going to say it's because of the child. He didn't want, it's the only thing I can guess. So, but as he went through the restaurant, he went up to one woman and said, you bitch, and then shot her. And he saw another woman hiding under a bench, and he basically said, you're trying to hide from me. And before he shot her, he continued through the restaurant, approaching different individuals. And he did shoot a man who was hiding underneath of a table. Now, one of the guests broke out a side windows of Luby's so that people could escape. People started escaping. So that is something that dude gets a medal for thinking to do that, because I train for stuff like that. Most people don't, So the fact that he had, I tried to find if maybe he was military, but I couldn't find it. But, so yeah, I'm going to get to that. It is said that George reloaded his pistols 3 times before the police arrived. Now, during his rampage, he killed 23 people. 10 of them were single point-blank shots to the head. And he wounded 27 other. Of the 23 killed, 15 were women. And the survivors said he went around the restaurant and chose women to shoot over men. He shot men who tried to get in the way, hide their wives, came up to him, stuff like that. Now, police arrived on the scene pretty quickly, and they tried to reason with George to give himself up. But he refused. He said, I have more people to kill. He then was out of bullets except for the one bullet he kept, and he turned the gun on himself and ended his life. So this shooting is known as Luby's Massacre in Texas. It was the deadliest mass shooting in America up until the Virginia Tech shooting in 2007. And as we all know, there have been so many since then that it's become people are becoming desensitized to it to some degree, because every day you turn on the news. Now, a lot of people wanted to know why. Why did he commit this absolutely heinous crime? He was raised with a silver spoon in his mouth, pretty much, Friends and former coworkers of his said that he was known for his erratic behavior. He was quirky but erratic, and he was said to be a little jumpy and paranoid. And he gravitated to rap music that glorified violence and women being punished. Okay. Now, this is the part that gets me because I think because we weren't as aware of these type of things back then, people didn't think to alert somebody. But it was later reported that he said a couple weeks before this, what would happen if I one day killed someone? And he said multiple times to coworkers, people overheard him at restaurants, that one of these days he was going to have to hurt someone. And he didn't really want to, but he was going to have to. Nobody called and reported him. Nobody. Okay. There is, thought he moved around a lot growing up since his dad was a surgeon in the Army. And like I said, it was no surprise that he went into the military. But when he was discharged from the merchant mariner, is it merchant mariner or Marines? It's Marines, Terry.
Marines.
But he was discharged due to his drug issues. He did complete a drug rehab program in Houston, Texas. And at the time of the shooting, there were no drugs or alcohol in his system. He was stone cold sober. So as the police start digging into, because he was deceased, but I think we all want to know why. What was the motive kind of thing? I think that's just human nature, right? So as they started looking into it, they found out that he had stalked two women who were sisters and lived just a couple of blocks away from the family home that he was living in. And it was said that people knew he hated women and was a racist. Now, a former roommate came forward and said George's rantings were even worse after he would talk to his mother because most of their talks ended in fights or disagreements. So leading many to believe that he had an issue with women due to his strained relationship with his mother. Mommy issues, right?
Maybe he saw that woman protecting her child and thought, I wish that my mom would have done that. And that's what saved her.
Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, the day before was his birthday. He turned 35 and he spoke to his mother on the phone. Assuming she called to say happy birthday, right? I'm going to assume. Right. But police searched the home that he was living in. They found no clues, no manifesto that was left behind. Didn't find why he had quit his job and decided to go on a killing rampage. Now, his dad, the doctor, told reporters back in October, a couple of days after this happened, he believed his son had a brain tumor. And that's what caused it. And he said he hadn't seen his son in over a year and that he didn't really know him very well. So there were several reports that said George felt his parents were unsupportive of him and that his mother was aggressive and strong-willed. Now, his parents divorced in 83, and this happened in 91. But he was already an adult, right? And by the way it sounds, he and his dad didn't keep in touch very well. So either his dad saying he didn't know him well because he was trying to shy away from it, and not be pulled into it and trying to give himself some absolution. I don't know. But a friend told a reporter that he, grew up, George, and growing up, their house was immaculate. And that George was so scared of messing anything up because it would set his mother off. He said, you literally walked on eggshells. So doesn't sound like it was a loving home, right?
No.
More mommy dearest kind of.
Right.
But growing up, no one that they talked to said there was any flags. They said he seemed pretty normal and that maybe the changes came after he was using drugs, but he stopped using drugs. He was clean at the time this happened. Other thing that was interesting, the night before the shooting, He had a birthday dinner for himself at a local restaurant. He was watching the Clarence Thomas confirmation on TV. And staff and other diners said that he was upset about Anita Hill. You know, I think we all know who accused Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment. He was overheard calling her a dumb bitch. So he definitely had a thing against women. Now, they did do an autopsy. The autopsy did not show any signs of drug, alcohol, or a brain tumor. They found no abnormalities that could contribute to what happened from the autopsy. So, ruled out his dad's theory about him having a brain tumor. No clear motive has ever been found. Now, I joke and say Texas is on drugs. I don't literally mean that. We just have some crazy laws going on, especially if you're a woman. But the Luby's massacre not only changed Texas, but it also impacted our Texas gun laws. So Susanna Hupp made a huge impact on gun laws after the shooting. Her parents were two of the victims killed in the shooting. And she is known for this comment: "You can't go up against a gun with a salt shaker." Susanna was dining, like I said, with her parents. She had left her pistol in the car because back then you couldn't carry it in. And she's a doctor. She didn't want to lose her license by carrying it in. She said if she would have had her gun, at least she would have had a fighting chance. And we're not going to get into the gun discussion, but it fueled and motivated for her to fight to expand the Second Amendment's right in Texas. She went on to be a Texas state representative from 97 to 2007. And as we all know, Texas is now one of the easiest states to get and carry a gun, which is a whole debate for another day. You know, because at the end of the day, 23 innocent people were killed. Many more were injured because of the actions of this one man. And because of this man, I do not sit with my back to the door in a restaurant. And that started when I was, young. And because my oldest son was born in 91. And it's why I check out where the escape routes are. And I check to see if the table can be flipped over. So it tells you it changed Texas a lot. And now that it's become a common thing, I think it's changed a lot of us. So that is my case. And I need more drink. And I want some fried chicken and macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes and Jell-O, please.
I don't have any of that.
Well, then what good are you? Maybe I should text Double H. We don't have a Luby's here. Or if we do, I don't know where it is. I may have to look for it. But I decided to cover that. I know it's a different kind of restaurant crime, but Cap, I left my bell in the other room because now that my mother-in-law's basset hound has moved in with us, every time I ring the bell for a drink, she howls. And I can't. She's got to stop. But like I said, I didn't want to go into, you can go online. They have every step he made within the process of what he said to every person as he shot. I wasn't going to go through that. I went through a couple, but like I said, it impacted me hugely. And I have to say, I probably have only eaten at Luby's 4 or 5 times since this happened. And every time I got nervous, and what's sad, it can happen anywhere. Not just Luby's, it wasn't Luby's fault, but being from Texas and Killeen is a huge military base and it's a big town.
Yeah. I was interested in seeing if, we've covered so many cases now, I couldn't remember, so I had to look it up, but to see if Active Shooter had covered the Luby's shooting, and they did in episode 8, which was probably 10 before I hopped on board. I'm interested to see if Kate, the showrunner, wants to do maybe another re-recording / updated info, because it's been so long. Uh, but yeah, yeah. These cases are always difficult. I appreciate the fact that you went with the whole no notoriety thing.
Yeah.
I can't. It grinds my gears when their names are plastered over everything, because they don't deserve it. Um, but yeah,
And I
they don't get
typically
any easier.
try to do that if they're still living. He's not still living, but I mean, we don't know why he did it. I'm going to go on a limb and say he had some mental things going on. He had some anger issues. He didn't deal with it in the right way. So he gets no excuse. He made the decision, and I'm not sad for how it ended. I mean, yes, probably everybody would rather him go to jail. But you know what? It's always risky with our legal system, right? So it
Yeah.
ended the way it ended. Everybody just don't do it. Just don't do
Um,
it.
my case is not dark. It's not deadly. It's not any of that. It does deal with food of a sort, not necessarily restaurant. But we're going to talk about really two things tonight.
Okay, I
I
have
like to
one
give
quick question.
yeah.
Is there any rats in the food or roaches in the food? Because
No,
if
no, no.
so, I'm turning off my audio. Okay.
It has nothing to do with the specific item of thing.
Okay.
But what we are going to chat about is we're going to talk about the Coca-Cola heist of 2006. But I am going to give context in terms of what the Cola Wars were, which, albeit, were intensified in the 80s, but happened since the late 1800s. And it still continues to this day. And I knew nothing about any of this stuff.
Cola Wars?
Yeah, the Cola
Like
Wars.
Coca-Cola
So-
Wars? Okay.
Uh-huh.
I know nothing about this, and I've gotten really good
this is
at
gonna be
not
fun.
researching your cases.
So am I. What?
I just want to know, is she hungry because I said that I'm hungry for chicken and macaroni, or is it because I said rats and roaches? I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, that you're
Are you
hungry
like
because
the
we're
wolf? All right, so We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel references in one of the lines Rock and Roller Cola Wars. And you know you've made it when you're enshrined in a Billy Joel song. Said no one ever. So the Cola Wars, I like Billy Joel, but I thought that was a perfect place for a joke. The Cola Wars represent one of the most famous and enduring rivalries in the corporate world, primarily between two giants, the Coca-Cola Company and PepsiCo. This rivalry has spanned decades. It's shaped marketing strategies, product innovations, and consumer preferences in the global beverage industry. I found some stuff in terms of their history really interesting, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about it, both of them. Coca-Cola was founded by Dr. John S. Pemberton in 1886. It started its journey in Atlanta, Georgia as a patent medicine aimed at alleviating headaches and fatigue. Caffeine, it does do that. Pemberton's creation combined coca leaves, a source of cocaine, and cola nuts, a natural source of caffeine, along with sugar syrup, creating a refreshing and invigorating drink. In fact, John Pemberton, this is fascinating, he was addicted to morphine and used the coca leaf as a safer alternative. And in the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, cocaine was widely used as a cure-all.
So truly there was cocaine in Coke?
Yeah, for quite some time. I think
I always
until...
thought that was a old wives' tale. I'm not sure that's what you call it.
No. It was very true. It contained cocaine until 1903, when the ingredient was replaced with caffeine.
So we were I hope nobody was giving their kids Coca-Cola.
Oh, are you kidding me? They were giving cocaine to everybody at that point. All right, like they were the Oprah of cocaine. You get cocaine. You get cocaine.
But how are people not dying from it? Were they just putting just a little? I don't know.
Yeah, oh,
But
yeah,
I
it
was
wasn't a lot.
thinking, were people OD? I mean,
But they
I used to
were
drink 12
also
Diet Cokes a
handing it out.
day. But if I would have drank 12 Cokes that had cocaine in
Yeah,
it, I would have died.
So there was the cocaine, and then it got switched to the cola nut, which has caffeine in it. So Coca-Cola also had the first celebrity endorsement in 1900 with singer and actress Hilda Clark, who was featured in one of Coke's ads, some of which were printed on tin trays, which were a big way to advertise at that point. As Coca-Cola expanded its reach beyond Atlanta, it became one of the most recognized and consumed beverages worldwide. Through savvy marketing campaigns, aggressive distribution strategies, Coca-Cola solidified its position as a cultural icon synonymous with American values and lifestyles. And by that, by aggressive distribution, here's what I mean. In the late 1800s, it was in the States, right? It was invented, it was in the States. They quickly advanced and moved some of their distribution to Australia and then Europe, and then they stretched the globe really fast. It was like by 1920, they were in different continents, which is wild. It's just wild to me.
Yeah. How did they do that back then? We didn't have the logistics and supply chain that we do now.
Wow. See, that's what is so impressive. That's why I'm bringing some of this stuff up. So in contrast to Coca-Cola's origin, Pepsi-Cola was founded by Caleb Bradham in 1893 in New Bern, North Carolina. And it was initially known as Brad's Drink.
Hey, I like the originality of that.
It sounds like a bar's like drink that they made up for somebody who was a regular. You know what I mean? That's so let's see. So Pepsi-Cola was formulated as a digestive aid. Apparently Pepsi is rooted in Greek, which means digestive, which is wild to me. I had no idea about this. But it was formulated as a digestive aid and an energy booster made from a blend of cola nuts, vanilla, sugar, and rare oils. Bradham's concoction gained popularity locally, prompting him to rename it Pepsi-Cola in 1898. The name Pepsi, again, Pepsi, derived from the digestive enzyme pepsin and the cola nuts used in the recipe. Like Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola initially operated as a regional brand sold primarily at soda fountains and drugstores. In terms of, you look like you might have a question.
When you say it's for digestion, are we talking it's supposed to be like a Pepto-Bismol or a soothing of your digestive system? Was it supposed to be like Metamucil?
I think that it has a lot to do with like soothing. Like sometimes when you have an upset stomach, flat Coke can calm your stomach.
Okay. That
so
makes sense then.
It's kind of in
right. I don't like Pepsi, so maybe that's why I have stomach issues.
I don't like the sound of rare oil as an ingredient. It sounds like something you'd get from a whale.
Oh, Guy. Okay, on that note, did you know that people get in trouble for using the oils of whale in lipstick and it's outlawed?
I believe it.
So.
So
that's crazy.
It's
I didn't
wild.
know
so in terms
Coke and Pepsi were made for something. I thought they were just soft drinks.
So in terms of logos, most people associate Pepsi with the circle logo. They opted for red, white, and blue because that logo debuted in the 1940s during World War II, and they were capitalizing on the strong feelings of patriotism at the time. And all of you'll notice some of their advertising always has this kind of low-key patriotic kind of, it's an American drink type thing. One way or another. It might be subtle, but it's there. They've kind of kept that throughout. Now, Coke's red background color first appeared in the late 1940s, but it was the creator's bookkeeper, Frank M. Robinson, who created the script logo in the late 1800s. So that's been around a lot longer than that red color. So 1910s to 1920s, we're going to go through a timeline here. Coca-Cola becomes an international brand, expanding its presence globally. 1931, Pepsi declares bankruptcy during the Great Depression. 1934, Pepsi, revitalized under new ownership, launches the 12-ounce bottle for the same price as Coca-Cola's 6.5-ounce bottle, leading to the introduction of the, quote, Pepsi Challenge marketing campaign. So that challenge has been out since 1934.
Wow. I thought it came out with like Brooke Shields' era. Or Cindy Crawford.
Nope.
Either Brooke Shields or Cindy Crawford did a commercial. So it was out before that? Wow.
I'm trying to make sure of something real quick before I... Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure I had something accurate. They're not at this point. But I'll find a way. So that was 1931. 1934, I said that. 1940s and 1950s, Coca-Cola becomes synonymous with American culture through advertising and product placement. I will talk a little bit more about product placement later. 1960s, Pepsi adopts the Pepsi Generation marketing campaign targeting the youth demographic. 1975, Pepsi becomes the first American consumer product to be produced and marketed in the Soviet Union. Not something to brag about these days. 1980s, the Cola Wars intensify with both companies engaging in aggressive marketing tactics, celebrity endorsements, and product diversification. Again, we'll talk about a lot. We'll break this down in a little bit here. 1985, Coca-Cola introduces, quote, New Coke, which quickly becomes a marketing failure. I think Bells had said New Coke sucked. Correct.
Yeah.
And I might talk about this a little later, but in the event that I don't, I want to mention it now. What happened, what Coke did ultimately was so much better for Coke, because what they did was they introduced New Coke, took the old stuff away. People said, I flippin' hate New Coke. So they left New Coke as Coke, but then they reintroduced the old recipe called Coca-Cola Classic. And people wanted Coca-Cola Classic back. And they ended up doing better than people thought, because they thought with New Coke things were going to, go downhill.
So they spun it to make it, they didn't plan that, but they came back. Now,
I don't think they planned it, but it's very possible they did.
What do you know what the difference was between New Coke and Coke Classic, except for that it sucked? Did they ever say what they changed? Was it less sugar, more this, less that? Or was it just...
So I couldn't find anything. And I think the reason for that is because you'd have to know the original recipe to tell the difference. And the original recipe, I'll explain where that's kept, because it's kept away.
I drank RC Colon Tab back then, so...
It's the third option. So 1990s, both companies expanded their product portfolios beyond cola, acquiring various beverage and snack brands. We'll talk about that. And in the 2000s, the Cola Wars continued with a focus on healthier beverage options and the international market expansion. So the rivalry between Coke and Pepsi began to intensify in the mid-20th century as both companies sought to expand their market share and outmaneuver each other. Key developments included the following items. TV ad battles. On Thanksgiving Day, 1950, Coke took advantage of the emerging power of TV, and they broadcasted a half-hour commercial on CBS.
Half an hour. I bet it didn't cost $1 million like 3-minute commercials do now.
But I highly doubt it. It might have been the equivalent, but
True.
I don't know. It's a good question. There weren't TV was so new. I guarantee it probably was expensive to develop that, but I'll have to look to see if I wonder if the original 1950 Coke ad is around. I'm sure it's somewhere. Here's a commercial of Coca-Cola from the 1950s. We could show that real fast.
Yeah.
I love this. This is great. I love the video. Whoops, that's not what I want. Nope, that's not what I want either. Come on, JT. You know how to do this? Okay. All right, here we go. Here's a 1950s commercial.
And the way my folks acted, you'd think I'd asked a whole army to stay for supper. I mean, how much can a mere 14 people eat after all? Just the ham, the turkey, the salad, and the layer cake, and a few other things. That's all. And Coke, of course. Well, you needed something sort of sparkly with such a skimpy meal. And we had to have music. I mean, you wouldn't want things to get dreary, would you? So just to keep everybody awake, sort of, I asked a couple of the boys in the band to drop over, too. And boy, did they brighten things up. And of course, then I had to give them all Coke, too, to brighten them up. And I even saved some Coke for Mom and Dad. I really did. But when they came home and saw that kitchen, well, they seemed to think one bottle of Coke just wasn't enough. So I have to mark it for a whole week as punishment. And when I mark it, I make sure this house has Coca-Cola.
Bring home the Coke, bring home the Coke. Everybody's happy when you bring home the Coke. That real great taste leaves you so refreshed. Coca-Cola puts you at your sparkling best.
I hope
Okay,
everybody
guys.
enjoyed that impromptu.
Coca-Cola does not put you at your sparkling best. That's what wine and champagne does. Okay, let's just clarify that.
So you can see, though, like in the 1950s, they're starting to market towards that younger generation around the same time or a little later than Pepsi was doing the Pepsi generation, right?
That was somewhat
So
adorable,
that was Coke.
though.
It was adorable. It really was. This explains so much of my 1970s childhood. On Pepsi's side, the president, Al Steele, decided to shift the company's advertising strategy. Now, if you know Al Steele, you'll know that he was, I think, her fourth husband, Joan Crawford. So Joan Crawford was married to Al Steele, who was the president of the PepsiCo company, or incorporated. And Joan Crawford suggested making Pepsi more of a lifestyle brand rather than one that emphasized value. And that made a switch. So, all right, Joan, get it.
I'm like, get it, girl. Get it, girl.
Right? So in terms of marketing battles, Coca-Cola and Pepsi engage in fierce marketing, launching iconic campaigns such as Coke's It's the Real Thing and Pepsi's Pepsi Generation. These campaigns targeted different demographics, with Coke appealing to tradition and nostalgia, while Pepsi targeted the younger gen with messages of youthfulness and vitality. Both companies introduced new products and packaging innovations to stay ahead of the competition. Coca-Cola's introduction of diet sodas like Diet Coke and Pepsi's launch of Pepsi Max and other low-calorie options reflected changing consumer preferences for healthier beverages, whatever you want to, this big quotes, healthier. In addition, Coke made a big move that was the purchase of the Minute Maid Corporation in 1960. Sprite, the most successful spin-off product, was also released in 1961. Pepsi later acquired in answer to that the international distribution rights for 7-Up. So they're going back and forth and back and forth. Yes, it is. It is tit for tat. In terms of celebrity endorsements, Coke and Pepsi have enlisted them throughout time. Like I said, the earliest one was 1900. Who made Tab? That's a good question. I didn't look it up. Coke. Coke did. It was created in 1963 after the successful sales of marketing of Diet Right Cola, owned by the Royal Crown Company. So, thank you, Google. Notable endorsements include Coke's partnership with Santa Claus and Pepsi's collaborations with Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, Beyonce. So, like there were even, so when, I'll give you an example, when the...
Wait, I'm stopping you. What about the polar bears? Don't just talk about Santa Claus. What about the polar bears?
I'm getting there. So when the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, which is the home of Coke, and Pepsi was the sponsor of the Super Bowl, Pepsi put on commercials saying the real drinks here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? It's nice to be here. So these are small jabs, right? These are not like unethical things. They're just small little jabs just because they know the person's watching it going, son of a... Yeah. Just as an example, I am eventually going to have to go. I've heard the Coke Museum is really good.
They have a
And
museum?
that's the Coke Museum. Yes, yeah, in Atlanta. The Coke Museum in Texas, very, very different. Not the same. Don't get confused by the definitions. Okay, you're welcome. All right. The Cola Wars expanded beyond the U.S. as Coke and Pepsi sought to dominate international markets. Both companies invested heavily in overseas operations, engaging in aggressive pricing strategies and localizing their marketing efforts to appeal to diverse cultures and tastes. Now, I talked about how Coke and Pepsi bought different companies. Obviously, I guess they call it diversification. The word diversification is one step off of math, and I don't like it, so I try to avoid it.
No gas math, please. No Pepsi
No gas math, no Coke math, no Pepsi math. I don't want no math. So in response to changing consumer trends, Coke and Pepsi diversified. Coke acquired Minute Maid, Dasani, and Honest Tea, while Pepsi acquired Frito-Lay, Tropicana, Quaker Oats, among others. When Pepsi merged with Frito-Lay to form PepsiCo Incorporated, the company used the newly formed partnership to give cola lovers a perfect companion for their Pepsi. Can you guess what it is?
Doritos?
It is. It's Doritos. Nice. Good job.
Was I right?
You were right. Absolutely.
That does not happen often.
Are you kidding? I'm going to ask Triple H. I'm going to call him Triple H now.
Triple
Double H. You'll have to ask. Double H will say, no, she's right all the time. Good
Please
answer.
don't give me two of them.
Or 1.5, I guess.
I need no extra. So I was right.
You were.
And do you know what made me think of that? Because Doritos did those commercials during the Super Bowl with the sexy vibe. So what would pair with that? The Pepsi. That's why I said Doritos.
Right. Yes. And this was around the same time that they began marketing Pepsi Generation, referring to the younger consumers. In terms of mass media, product placement was rampant early on. Coke's most obvious example and earliest example, hi, Kimbers. I'm not mocking it. I just don't like it. Yes, I do. Thank you. Yes, I hope you're safe.
Yeah, I mean, we
Kimbers,
need math,
Ohio.
but guess what? Here's the way you do math. Right here. It's all you need. Keep it handy.
Here's my favorite thing. Here's my favorite thing that happened in math class. When they said, you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. Well,
yes, I do.
My phone has more power in it and does more stuff than the space shuttle that landed on the moon. So, just saying. Anyways, so the most obvious example initially was the 1961 movie 1, 2, 3 with James Cagney. He plays a high-ranking executive in the Coke company. So Jimmy, apparently near the end of the movie, he goes to he's like at an airport or something. I'm riffing off the top of my head from what I remember reading, but he's at an airport or something, and he goes to a vending machine, and it's all Pepsi, and he calls up like somebody and is like, "We got to get ourselves here," which I think is really funny. In addition, Coke's first movie appearance was actually in the 1946 holiday classic, It's a Wonderful Life, where it can be seen on the store shelves.
Mm-hmm.
By the 60s, the Coke actually opened an office in LA because they were featured in so many films. They were there to make sure that no matter the time the movie was set in, if they wanted Coke products, they would provide the correct ones for the time. Yeah. In the 1980s is when Pepsi got a few massive product placements, with a mention in Back to the Future 1 and 2. The man of
Still never seen it.
But
I've seen bits and pieces. I can't get into a guy that's dating his mom or his mom's hitting on him. That just creeped me out, and I am not watching it. Double H gives me heck for it about all the time. That just creeps me out. No, not interested.
But while it was featured in both of those films, The Man of Steel crashed through a Coke billboard, and E.T. opened a can of Coke, and E.T. was the highest grossing film for quite some time. So this war continues, right? It's just like, it's how big is it, right? We're doing a measuring contest.
Now,
This
can
is
I
what it is.
ask a quick question? And I hope this doesn't show my ignorance too bad. Growing up, I don't know if it's just because my family didn't like Pepsi. I don't know. They were Dr. Pepper and Coke. But I kind of thought it was different races drank different products. So, like, if you went to, I don't know what the terminology is, but back in the day, they called it the barrios. If you went to the barrios area of Houston, you would see this kind of soft drinks. If you went down to the Fifth Ward, you saw this. And then you went to the other areas, you saw that. I truly, until I was a teenager, thought it was marketed to the ethnic groups. But what you're telling me, it's not. They were just going back and forth with each other.
They were going back and forth with each other for sure. Now, their placement in terms of cultural and location could have very well been aggressive in that fashion. I don't have anything that says that it was, but if they saw a population that wasn't being advertised to or wasn't being provided, I mean, business would say, put it there.
Do that. No, I agree.
So, and you only know what you see, and that's what you observed.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
because
it sounds like a, yep.
Like some restaurants still, like Jack in the Box. Is it Jack in the Box? There's some place they only sell Pepsi. Maybe it's Taco Bell, and I always have to say, no, could I have a bottle of water?
Yeah,
because I don't like Pepsi products.
College campuses are rampant with one thing, right? You're either a Coke campus or a Pepsi campus. I drank a lot of Coke as a kid, and by a kid I mean as a college student, but I lived on a Pepsi campus. So they had Pepsi only, and that's how you get paid, right? Pepsi will say, we will provide these things if you only carry our stuff. Where I work now, it is all Pepsi except for one location, and that's the Ronald McDonald House. They are allowed to have a Coke machine. Everywhere else, not at all.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's stupid marketing. I mean, it is good marketing. I mean, and they did some smart business decisions around that. Just like there was a time that they would sell certain beers only at the Astros game.
Yeah. It's so interesting. But like in terms of this, and before we get to the actual heist, which really wasn't much of a heist, you'll find out. Oh my gosh, McDonald's is all Coke products everywhere. McDonald's is only Coke products, no matter where you go. If you know a McDonald's, let me know.
I think that their shareholders, somewhere I remember seeing that there was some commingling there.
Oh, there's gotta be. I mean, like, and if you don't know, Coke tastes so good at McDonald's because it's double filtered before it's combined. That's why it's so good at McDonald's. So the water goes through twice. It's like double filtered before it's combined with the syrup.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
They double filter.
That's why, that's why, like, when you go to McDonald's and you get a Coke, it's flipping. Yeah, Bell's right. It's flipping amazing because there's nowhere else that does it exactly like they do.
Well, then I'm going to have to go get one because I drink Diet Coke. I'm going to have to go try a Coke there.
Yeah, I mean, fill up half a cup. All right, so let's just kind of sum up by the numbers before we kind of get any further with the heist. Both companies have seen revenue spikes since the mid-1980s. Coke is primarily stuck with beverages, but because Pepsi diversified with snacks, Pepsi has a small advantage with stocks. Coke earns around $35 billion in revenue annually. Pepsi generates nearly $60 billion annually. Despite that, Coke outspends Pepsi on advertising, $2 billion to $1.1 billion on just advertising. Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
with that Pepsi, that is including the food. If we took out the Frito-Lay part, it would be less, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Coke primarily does beverages, and they're spending $2 billion. Pepsi has all this stuff, and they're only spending 1.1. Which is interesting and so interesting.
That's interesting.
And the figures kind of bring one to the conclusion that Coke's the winner, but that isn't necessarily the case. It's hard to say who's the winner, and it will always be hard to say who's the winner because both companies have different goals and definitions for success. And there's no way to bring those together. Yes, ultimately you can do the bottom line, but the bottom line for them is defined differently, right? Mm-hmm. So now let's talk a little bit about this Coca-Cola heist of 2006. This heist involved the theft of Coca-Cola's trade secrets, including confidential documents related to product formulations and marketing strategies. So there was a secretary named Joya Williams. She was 41 at the time. She was an assistant to Coke's global brand director. She was attempting to reignite the cola wars between Coke and Pepsi, but like also capitalize off of that within that vein. So what happened here? As you can imagine, secrecy, NDAs, product protection, this is how companies like Coke and Pepsi stay afloat. For instance, and I mentioned I was going to talk about this, the original Coke formula is locked in a multi-million-dollar vault. Only 2 people on Earth know the combination of how to get in, and they fly on separate planes when traveling in the event of an accident.
For a soft drink recipe?
Yep.
It's okay.
Okay. So Joya Williams was the daughter of a church deacon and a Sunday school superintendent. She had worked at Coke's largest bottling factory for 3.5 years before joining corporate in 2005. Because she worked with the global head of marketing, she was entrusted with sensitive emails, internal documents, and new unreleased products. She was there for 14 months before she decided she was going to come up with a plan to really show them because she felt like she was being mistreated. So in late 2005, she was introduced to a friend of a friend, as one is, named Edmund Duhaney. I'm going to call him Duhaney. He was a 40-year-old father of 3. He had just gotten out of prison on cocaine charges and was looking for work.
As one does.
Cocaine. As one does. Williams told him she possessed a trove of highly classified Coke documents that would likely be worth money if the company's competitor, Pepsi, or to the company's major competitor, Pepsi. But she had signed an NDA and couldn't deliver the goods herself. I can't do it, but you sure can. Right? Yeah. So Duhaney, she needed a middleman. Duhaney actually knew a guy, as again one does, his buddy Ibrahim Dimson, who was a young white-collar embezzler and self-proclaimed charmer. And of course they both met in prison because that's how this works. Under the alias of Dirk, which is the best name ever, Dimson sent a letter in an official Coca-Cola envelope addressed to the senior VP at Pepsi, claiming he was a high-level Coke executive with extremely confidential trade secrets. And here's how it read. Dear Pepsi, I have information that's all classified and extremely confidential that only a handful of the top execs at my company have seen. I can even provide actual products and packaging of certain products that no eye has seen outside of maybe 5 top execs. I am looking to deliver to the highest bidder. This exclusive offer is only available for 2 weeks. You can reach me at redacted Dirk.
Wow.
So 2 weeks later, Dimson, aka Dirk, got a call from the supposed PepsiCo employee by the name of, quote, Jerry. And if you've seen Parks and Rec, if it's Jerry, He was interested and asked Dimson for proof that he could deliver to Pepsi. So he faxed Jerry 14 pages of Coke documents, almost all marked confidential information or classified highly restricted. And it's true. Like, this is they're classified in the same way government documents are. And he told Jerry that Jerry needed to wire money to a provided bank account to show he was a, quote, serious partner. Shortly after, he received a transfer for $5,000. And that's when the real heist started. So Joya Williams comes back into the mix, and she's a trusted middlewoman between top-level executives. And she got not just troves of documents, tons of documents, which is presentations, internal emails, development proposals, but she got actual samples of unreleased products, including a product that they were working on at the time.
Wow.
Right. So late at night at Coke, she stuffed her bag with manila folders of classified paperwork and a small vial of a secret product under development. It sounds like 007, but it's all Coke.
It sounds like true espionage.
And I'll be honest with you, with how they classify these documents, with the NDAs that they sign, with all of this security, it is. It sounds like Watergate, but like Cola-gate. It sounds like Cola-gate.
I mean, somebody had posted earlier, that's like the royal family. You can't let people travel together. I mean, I get business is important, but wow, I had no clue.
Yeah, Belle's
was
right.
that big of a deal.
It's corporate espionage is what it is. Now, once she got these, they were passed on to Dimson, who convinced Jerry to purchase them for $30,000 to $75,000 up front. Or sorry, purchase them for $75,000. $30,000 up front, $45,000 later after tests. So the two met, Jerry and Dimson, met at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, as you do,
Georgia,
where in broad daylight, he handed over a brown Armani Exchange duffel bag full of the goods in exchange for a Girl Scout cookie box stuffed with cash.
I hope it was Thin Mints.
I know, right? Tell me about it. So Dimson left the airport. He got into a car with his pal, Duhaney, and booked it to Decatur, Georgia. Something about Georgia.
I was excited.
What it is about
Georgia. Georgia.
Listen,
Sweet Georgia.
there are... Apparently, Georgia is the place where embezzlers and... what's the word I'm looking for? Scam artists. Scam artists are from Georgia, apparently. So Dimson left the airport.
She only got $75,000. She only got 75 grand.
Well. So they divvied up the dollars, right? $2,000 for Duhaney, $6,000 for Williams, and Dimson got $22,000 for himself. He didn't even steal the stuff. It was Williams who had the idea.
Why did he get so much?
Leave the Girl Scouts out of this, Jerry.
I mean, somebody needs to do a better negotiating job for money on that one. Just saying.
Right. The real payday was happening 10 days later. Jerry rang Dimson and offered $1.5 million for the remaining trade secrets.
Okay, now we're talking.
We would be, but Jerry wasn't actually a Pepsi executive, as one probably could assume. Maybe. He was FBI Special Agent Gerald Reichard, also known as Jerry.
I so did not see that coming.
So here's the thing. Right?
Okay, it's got to be the tequila.
This is how the FBI got involved, right? So Pepsi received the trio's initial letter, and they promptly forwarded it to Coke. And they informed them that Coke had a leaker. And in turn, Coke brought the FBI to conduct an investigation. So Pepsi did the right thing.
Pepsi, you know what? Pepsi did the right thing. We will forgive them for burning
Right.
Michael Jackson's hair.
Temporarily, we'll forgive. Yes.
They did the right thing.
But like,
I mean,
seriously,
most
I was-
companies
I was-
wouldn't when they're going tit for tat like that. I
Right, I
wouldn't
was
have thought that they would have.
We're talking what? Basically 100 years of a war
Yeah.
and between companies, and they chose to forward it to Coke saying they had a leaker, which I think is just amazing. So
I agree.
July 5th, 2006, the three of them were arrested on charges of wire fraud and unlawfully stealing and selling trade secrets. There was a very fast trial. Duhaney and Dimson were handed 2 and 5 year prison sentences. Duhaney said in court, "This should have died where it started. It was a mere fantasy." Joya Williams initially denied the allegations, maintained that her accomplices had double-crossed her, but she was facing an insurmountable heap of evidence, and she ended up spending 8 years in prison. And Williams' lawyer said it's like something from a spy novel, which, like, if my defense lawyer is making comments like that, I'm getting a new lawyer.
Well, I think it was a public defender.
Right.
It wasn't a paid
Right.
attorney.
Probably. So Pepsi said we did what any responsible company would do. I'm just going to say this. Yes, it's what they should do. It's not what they would do.
I say it should. It's not what they would. I agree.
Do you think, like, if you think ExxonMobil is going to forward a letter to Texaco because they were told they had some secrets? Hell no, they're not going to do that. They're going to take those secrets is what they're going to do and cover it up.
Yeah.
So yeah. You know, it's just really interesting. There's been a ton of rivals that have been accused of trade secret theft. For instance, Uber pilfered Waymo, allegedly. Samsung stole info from a chip maker, TSMC. Facebook was ordered to pay $500 million to a VR company in the face of intellectual property theft charges. Now they're back in court again. But as an article from The Hustle said, the ultimate question of the time is, are you a Dirk or are you a Jerry?
Now, and I could be totally wrong, isn't it Pepsi that there's a documentary that they got sued
Yes.
about a fighter jet plane or something? Okay.
Yes, so they did the Pepsi points, right? Where you drink Pepsi, you earn points. You can get things. I don't know the whole thing. I want to watch it. I just haven't. I was writing this, didn't have time to watch that. But this guy apparently accrued so many points, he was like eligible. Somebody in the chat is going to correct me, but eligible for whatever that was, fighter jet. And Pepsi said no, and he said, "I've collected this," and Pepsi said no, and he said, "Well, we're going to court," and Pepsi said okay, and then here we go.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of cojones for taking
I was
Pepsi
say
to court.
watch it. It is good, but you'll see it was a business deal to do it. He didn't actually collect the Pepsi points. He realized you could buy Pepsi points, and it was cheaper to buy them than to drink all the drinks. So he got basically an investor to do it, and then he demanded his fighter jet thing. I mean,
That sounds like
it was very big cojones. But if
Yeah.
you're going to advertise a fighter jet, you should have a fighter jet to give.
Yeah. I did this. I did this. Is that what it's called? It's Leonard versus PepsiCo.
Yes.
I need to figure out 1 second here.
Now, has Pepsi and Coke ever sued each other? Does it say? I wouldn't think so, since I have heart flutters for Pepsi because they actually did the right thing. You don't hear about that in corporate America. You don't. So I wonder, they did the tit for tat, but did they ever have legal issues between the two? I love it, that look on your face. I should screenshot that.
It's me trying to remember what I wrote for this for an episode of like Brewery, which was a real story, legitimately. One of the companies, I'm afraid I'm going to give it away and have the wrong info, and it'll ruin it.
Well, don't do that.
1 second. No, I know. I feel like it was this one.
So I have to say, the only person I've ever heard of a name as Dirk is Dirk Nowinski.
Yeah, that's all I could think of was Dirk Nowinski.
I was like, Dirk. Besides that Dirk, I didn't know there was any other Dirks.
So this is, I found it. This is not that long. However, as soon as we're done, Brittany, it will refresh. You can watch it on YouTube. I believe it also saves on Facebook as well. So as soon as it's done and it kind of processes, it'll be back up for everybody. Thank you for asking. So in the vast sea of business deals, corporate takeovers, and maritime mishaps, there exists a tale so bizarre it's almost as fizzy as a freshly cracked open Pepsi. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up for the astounding chronicle of how Pepsi came to own a Soviet naval fleet. Proving that sometimes the best way to navigate international waters is with a can of cola in hand. So, in the era of the Cold War, a time when global tensions were high and the superpowers engaged in geopolitical chess matches, amidst the political posturing, Pepsi found itself eyeing a new market. A market that would make even the boldest... we done lost Terry. She'll be back. A market that would make even the boldest of business moguls do a double take. The Soviet Union. The Soviets, thirsty for a taste of the capitalist world they'd been warned against, were eager to get their hands on the sweet nectar of Pepsi. But alas, they faced a peculiar problem. You're back. It happens.
I was like, well, I didn't know how to come back.
So, Captain said, Terry's gone for a Coke.
That'd be Diet Coke.
So, remember when I said that Pepsi was the first company to have something in Soviet Union? This is what I'm talking about. So the Soviet Union wanted Pepsi. They were eager to get their hands on it, but they faced a peculiar problem. It was a lack of hard currency to facilitate that soda exchange. But the genius of the century, the Pepsi Challenge meets Soviet naval might. In an unprecedented move, PepsiCo and the Soviet Union engaged in a deal that would have the world scratching its head for years to come. The beverage giant didn't just secure the rights to peddle its bubbly elixir in the Soviet Union, it managed to snag a piece of the Soviet naval fleet as collateral. Yes, that's right, submarines for soda. So Soviet naval officers donned their imposing uniforms, sipped on Pepsi as they negotiated the terms of this fleet exchange. Submarines exchanged hands like cans of cola at a convenience store, leaving Pepsi in possession of naval vessels that could make any naval strategist do a spit take. The Pepsi Navy, as it became affectionately known, consisted of a few diesel-powered submarines that were probably more adept at submerging Pepsi cans than engaging in high-stakes naval warfare. Rumor has it that the submarines even bore the iconic red, white, and blue Pepsi logo, turning the high seas into a floating advertisement for everyone's favorite beverage. The strategic value of this particular naval force remains unclear, but one thing is certain. Pepsi had achieved the unimaginable, transforming from a mere soft drink purveyor to an unintentional maritime powerhouse. As the years passed, the Pepsi-Soviet naval escapade became a quirky footnote in the annals of international relations. The submarines may not have seen much action, but the story itself became a testament to the bizarre twists and turns that history can take when fueled by cola-inspired diplomacy. So, the next time you crack open a can of Pepsi, raise a toast to the unsung naval heroes of carbonated conquests, proving that sometimes the best way to navigate the stormy seas of geopolitics is with a refreshing sip of fizzy diplomacy. Cheers to Pepsi, the accidental admiral of the soda-infused naval history. So that's your typical Happy Holiday script from Brew Crime, but it still plays into this, right?
It still plays perfectly into this. Now, wasn't there I may be a wino, so my brain maybe doesn't work, but wasn't there some talk around the Pepsi challenge being faked that like people would pick Coke, but they would say it was Pepsi?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that was all, it was obviously all marketing. There, I'm sorry, but if no, nobody wants that. No. Not this time.
I was
It's
like,
not
I'll have to go
Friday,
back
it's
and
only
listen.
Thursday.
But wasn't there some kind of at a hullabaloo? Did you drink that whole bottle?
Yeah.
Look,
It's only
JT.
8% alcohol. It just went down.
It's
That's
gone.
that's a good time. So yes. And from what I read, it was not scientific, obviously. It was all marketing. They were gonna pick the clips of the people who picked the drink that they had.
Okay.
And that's how that went. There was no but I will say this, in actual studies, people tended to choose Pepsi over Coke because Pepsi is more sugary. It's more of what your brain is looking for. I will say this as well. There was another heist of a Coke like thing from a woman who ended up moving back to, I want to say, the Philippines, applied for a grant, took that information and tried to use it for the grant to create it for companies in the Philippines. What really worried me was not that she did that. It was more what she took, which was the formula for the cans that Coke uses. There is a lining within the cans of Coke that Coke uses to keep Coke from eating the can.
Yeah. You don't want to know what it does to your stomach lining.
No, but it definitely cleans rust off of hubcaps. My justification was always like, if it does that, well, obviously I'm cleaned out. It's fine.
I mean, you pour it on your battery when they're all corroded and it eats it away. I mean, when I had a heart attack at 30,
Oh God.
33, the doctor said, with 12 Diet Cokes a day, you're lucky you still have a stomach or an esophagus.
Man,
And then
for
he
the
showed
longest
me.
time I was bragging that my college like mini fridge could hold 46 cans of Coke and that my roommate and I finished them in 3 weeks. But we did. Maybe that's why I gained a freshman 40 instead of 15. I don't know. But here we are.
But no, so she tried to steal the secret recipe for the can.
She did.
Oh, she did?
Yeah, she did. And getting the grant, because she got the grant, was dangerous because when a few people who had gotten the grant were investigated by the FBI because of what they had gotten the grant for. And her family said that. And then she ended up getting in some trouble. But like, that's literally how intense the like classification. I almost feel like Coke classifies their documents better than the government. It's almost like nobody is taking Coke documents out of the building to their hotel in Florida like they are for FBI documents.
I mean, they're not putting
just
them
saying,
up
maybe
on
we could learn
WikiLeaks.
something.
We're not putting them up on
Well-
WikiLeaks, right?
Right. I mean, I've never seen it. So,
So
so
my question is, because these are publicly traded companies, right? Coke is and
Yes.
Pepsi.
yes.
Do they have the right to hide the secret sauce?
I mean, it's proprietary knowledge,
I mean,
right?
it's proprietary.
Yeah,
mean-
like the company I worked for that was healthcare, they had an entire record system that's proprietary that they refuse to sell to anybody, no matter how much they pay them, because what it is it's safe. You know, it's localized. It's not online. It's on network, and nobody can really take it over. So that's
So do you
know,
think with all of our technology now, and if we can track DNA, and I just listened to a podcast about a guy in Dallas who they were able to prove by doing some scientific thing that he's the person who infected 11 women with AIDS based on the strand. Couldn't you take some Coke and pour it into a machine and push a button and it tell you exactly what the recipe is?
Oh, I'm sure you could. I'm sure that's.
I mean, or am I just
I'm
thinking
almost
way
certain
too
it can be
out
done.
there?
But like, I wonder
I mean, if
if
we
there's
can-
a I don't know.
If you can tell every ingredient, if you can do a blood test on a person and tell that they have cocaine, chlamydia, or that's not a drug. Oh my God. They have cocaine, marijuana, amphetamines.
I don't think shame, but all right, whatever.
But I mean, if they can tell that, how can you not pour Coke into something and be told exactly how much of each thing's in it? Oh my
So,
God,
I feel
everybody's
like-
blowing up the chat now.
So
Sorry,
I feel like you
guys.
can, right? You can do
Okay.
that, but I think
Is that illegal?
I think where the lawsuit comes in is if you publish it. Obviously, the technology's there. You could put something in a thing and pull out the ingredients. But I think, number one, you're just pulling the ingredients, not the mixture, and how much is in what and for how big of a volume. But I guess you could do math. Sure, you could do Coke math, which people do
I can't.
every
but-
day on a scale. They do Coke math. But like, I think publishing it would be like a violation of copyright law, right? I mean, or
because
something.
I
don't
know I've seen online that people post the recipes for like Mrs. Fields cookies or
Oh yeah,
Red Lobster
the
cheddar cheese
Hogwarts
biscuits.
butterbeer,
How is
right?
that?
At Orlando.
How is that different than Coca-Cola?
I mean, as far as I know, the butterbeer recipe is not under lock and key in a multi-million-dollar vault. But I don't really know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I need a copyright lawyer.
Okay,
I
I
don't-
just
I don't have one.
Googled it. There's lots
Uh-oh.
of articles about why people haven't been able to reverse engineer Coca-Cola and why it can't be deconstructed. So I'm going to have to
Interesting.
dig into that because I want to know why. Because if I can do all these
Sure, you'll
other
have an
things,
update on my case.
I mean, because then you could just make your own, get your stream soda machine, get all the ingredients.
Yeah.
You could make your own Coca-Cola at home. And if you
Well,
wanted,
the
you could
stream
put some of
soda
the
machine doesn't
old-fashioned
have a
Coke in
cola
it. You could add the
Yeah, I
old-fashioned.
mean, the stream soda has that Coke syrup. It's not the same, but
You could, but I mean, you could
yeah, I mean,
reverse
you could do
engineer
it.
it and make it yourself. Okay, please do not come after me, Coca-Cola. I'm not going to try it. I don't do math.
I was gonna say you were so worried in the beginning of the show of like stepping on toes or saying too much, and then all of a sudden you've totally pissed off an entire corporation. Well done, you. Well done. Well, we'll see you guys maybe never again.
I mean, I'm not saying we all know I'm
Oh.
not going to do math. I am just shocked. I mean, people make fake Birkins. They make fake Gucci this. How has nobody ever done it? That or Coca-Cola has such a good legal team, they shut it down so fast that we don't hear about it.
Oh, you know they have a good legal team. Also, when you said Birkin, I thought you said Merkin. That's a totally different thing. So
I don't know what Birkin is, so
but,
what's a Merkin? Should I
You-
Google it?
somebody will let you know. I'm sure. I will tell you later.
Okay.
I'll tell you when I'm older. Oh, you're gonna Google it though.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, no.
There,
A
that's what they-
Birkin bag is not that. Okay. But it's still a knockoff.
It wasn't
It's
just
still
me.
a knockoff.
It is a knockoff. You're right. And so
I
is a
have to say
merkin. It's all
one
the same.
thing I love about our people in our community. I mean, I've watched Shrek. I have learned what a merkin is. I mean, I have learned so much from people. I've learned so much.
It's the best group. You're the
It
best
is.
group ever.
So
Oh man.
the biggest thing I have taken from this case is that Pepsi, whoever is in charge, is a good person. No, he doesn't ever do what he says he's going to do. I always do what I say. Well, not always, but I try. He still hasn't watched Jim and the Holograms.
Listen, after this, I will go downstairs. I will turn on Tubi and I will watch Gem.
I want you to
Wait, it's
video
Gem and the
yourself.
Holograms? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Gem
I want
and the
you
Hologram?
to video yourself. I need proof, documentation.
Okay.
But I, as somebody who's been in corporate America, I respect that Pepsi did the right thing. And
Yeah.
I can't say enough about that because I wonder if Coca-Cola would have done the same for them.
I would hope so. I would hope so. Okay, the cartoon. Good. That's what I found on Tubi.
The
Cool.
cartoon. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like they had two options. One, really, like legally, they had two options. One, pass it along to Coke and say you have a leaker, which they did.
Right.
Great. Two, ignore it and say you're crazy and just drop it in the trash. Right. But if they did that, they would have found another buyer.
Right. They would have.
So, I mean, if they were smart, but they really weren't that smart. Dirk didn't really think.
I say Dirk wasn't that smart. Jerry was smart.
Dirk's along the same line as like Ethan. It's just not. I don't know. I've never met an Ethan that I know that's like. No offense to Ethans, I mean, it's whatever. But yeah.
When you say Ethan, I think of Ethan Couch. So.
Oh.
Now,
people
are
sit
you
all
done
over
with
it.
your case?
I am done with my case. Yes.
Because I have a question for the people that are still watching. If we have a potential possibility to do a live meet and greet in the Austin, Texas area, would love to know if anybody would be interested in meeting JT and I in person and being part of an actual live stream in the flesh with cocktails or
It'd be so
iced
fun
tea.
to take Q&A and everything. That'd be great.
I know we would do Q&A, meet and greet. I mean, if we can make this happen, it would be fun. I just want to know if anybody's really interested in meeting us.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be going to the True Crime Paranormal Podcast Festival, which is in Denver this year.
I am too.
Are you? You are? Okay, good. You think I'd know that, right? You think I know that. So it's going to be, I think I did know that, and I just forgot.
Because remember,
don't
I
know why
didn't get to go last year, and it was here.
Right.
Because I had a flare
That's
up,
right.
so they're letting me use my tickets next year.
So
now
we
this
will
year.
be there. Brew Crime will be there. It's going to be awesome. Double duty.
Oh, Lord, you, me, and Mike together. That is scary.
And Amber. It's going to be great.
Oh, my gosh. It's
And-
going to be scary.
I know. I'm sad that our True Crime podcast is not coming, but that's okay. They're busy, Jen and Cam, but they're lovely. But there's going to be a lot of shows there. It's going to be a good time. So I can't remember. Were you going and having a table?
No,
Or were you
I was
just
just
going?
going to go. But
Oh,
if you're going
well-
to, we might need to talk about a table.
We can definitely talk to them about that. Or it's Mike and I could probably like
I say
combine
we
the
could
two.
maybe
I don't know.
combine it too, because we have
I'll
done
be
so
the
many
thorn between two
crossovers.
roses.
we will put you in the middle, and Mike and I will make a sandwich with you. I mean, we have done so many crossovers. I've popped on for Happy Holidays. I mean, if we could get Mike on YouTube in front of a camera, we would do something, all three of us. He's just a little bit more shy than we are.
Yeah. Do you remember 2020 we did the Justice League?
We did the Justice League. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you have not listened to our Justice League, you can find it on Apple, anywhere you get podcasts. That was an amazing collaboration, and we need to do something like that again.
We do. It was like 6 shows. We all brought short cases, and it was really good.
It was good. It was good. But so I just wanted to throw that out there. But I will not be going to Crime Con, but I am going to the paranormal true crime event.
Yes. It's going to be a good time. Well, anyways, I think that does it.
I'm going to just be obvious and transparent. My cheeks are turning red. I'm sweating. I've turned my fan on, and I need to go take the clothes off because they fall off with the tequila. And I cannot do that. This is not the place to see a beached whale.
Oh my God, stop. But you do need to get the bell for Double H. So, I mean, there's nothing better than Double H showing up, tequila, and then...
I did sleep in a tent for 5 nights with the littles in my backyard on an air mattress. Last night was my first night to sleep in my bed with Double H. He was the smarter one of the two. He let us sleep outside. I can't let the kids sleep in the tent alone, even though that's a locked yard, because we have a pool. And I'm too...
yeah. You said pool, not pole. Pool.
Pool. I can't take... What if they're sleepwalking and they fall in the pool? No, I put the pool away before the littles get here.
You can't leave kids around a pool, and you can't leave JT around a pole. You can't.
Well, guys, if we are able to do the Texas thing, JT will be spending the night at my house. There will be a lot of TikTok video filming. There will be makeup things. And now that I know about pole dancing, might have to pull out the pole.
I don't know how to pole dance. It'll be fun, though.
We could give it a try.
We'll bolt it in the ceiling. It'll be fine.
That's what we got Double H for. That's his department to figure it out.
It's not mine, that's for sure.
But it was great seeing you. It's been too long. And I enjoyed your case. I learned a lot, and I am going to have to deep dive into the social. Oh my God, I need to just shut up. Into
sociological.
Thank you. Marketing that I perceived.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I will do my I will do my closing, and then you do yours as per usual. Thank you all. Take care of yourself, your friends. Don't let anybody dull your sparkle and shine on crazy diamonds. And Terry, close us out.
Stay safe. Watch out for crime. And enjoy your wine time, because your clothes don't fall off like tequila time.
Bye, everybody.